you. So my name is Casserly, and I direct the Open Educational Resources Initiative here at the Foundation. And this has been an area that the Foundation has been investing in the past 5 years. And I really want to acknowledge Mike Smith, who's been the director of the education program. He came to the Foundation and really wanted to introduce education technology into the Foundation. And so I came on board at that time just as a consultant to begin to explore the landscape of education technology and to see what opportunities might be there. And we have entered a very full world of open educational resources. So to begin, if we just look at the problem from the beginning, there are many, many people on the outside looking in. There's a few of us, the privileged few, who sit in places like the Hewlett Foundation and have opportunities at Stanford and Berkeley and other places around the world, but there are many, many people throughout the world who don't have that type of access. And the world has changed dramatically. There's much more bandwidth. We are connected now. We can use cell phones. The cost is decreasing, and many, many more people are connected now through the internet. And this really provides the opportunity for us to collaborate, to work together, to personalize, and to create our own space. So if I took a survey of people in this room, how many people have touched what you see on the right-hand side of that screen in the past 6 months? Well, a few. We have a few. And about how many on the left-hand side, the little iPod or the music, right? Many, many more people. And if we think about throughout the world, everyone's using the mobile devices and the technology to really be able to create their own music, to play the music as they choose, where they choose, and how they choose. And so open educational resources was really inspired by the belief that education and knowledge are public goods and that they should be freely shared. And when we talk about open educational resources, the way it's been defined is high-quality educational content that's freely available on the web. And it's available in all languages. And the important thing is it's not only accessible, but it's reusable, remixable, localizable. You can translate it, and you can put it on any device and bring it to other kind of platforms. So the presentation we just heard was a great example. One of the big projects that Hewlett funded initially was the MIT OpenCourseware project with the Mellon Foundation. Last fall in November, they celebrated that they had this big 1800 event where all 1800 of their courses are now freely available on the web. And this was a very, very big idea at the time, really caught the imagination and the headlines of a lot of institutions and people throughout the world. MIT spent over a year within the institution trying to decide what they could do to step into the education technology space. Should they become a distant education university? Should they sell their courses? What was in keeping with their mission? And then finally, after a year, someone in the faculty just threw out the idea, why don't we just give it away? And the room just stayed silent. And everyone had realized in this very bold and simple idea they had really hit on something quite unusual. And there was a lot of concern in kind of, what does this mean when a university gives away its content, when the faculty put their videos up for free? And what they found, and what MIT is saying, is the value of the experience at MIT isn't the curriculum, it isn't the content, it's the face-to-face interaction with the faculty, it's the cohort of students that you interact with. It's being in that incredible learning environment that provides an incredible rich boundary. And we know that there are only a few privileged few who will be able to make it to the walls of MIT and Harvard and Stanford as well. But now this content is freely available really throughout the world. And what was important was that we really stimulate the idea of sharing content. So it's not just at MIT, but would other universities also pick up this idea of unlocking their knowledge? And there has definitely been a resounding yes, I think far more dramatic than anyone would have ever imagined when the first grant was initially made. There's now an OpenCourseware consortium. There's over 170 universities around the world who are making their content freely available. There's consortiums in Japan, in Vietnam, in Spain, in Europe, in Russia, there's courses in Turkey, just really throughout the world, in Brazil, many, many languages, very heavy use. So this was an interesting comment about Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, is just the one everyone turns to. It's the community site that everyone knows about. And yet we still feel, because it's Wikipedia and this community contribution, that it's not as accurate, or it's somehow less than those Encyclopedia Britannicas that we're so used to historically. So there was a study by some faculty of the difference of errors found between Wikipedia and the Encyclopedia Britannica. And they found the same number of errors in both documents, with the difference that Wikipedia can be updated in a much more, much quicker, much more readily than certainly the Encyclopedia Britannica. And so, and this is a very issue too, and this is an interesting issue about Wikipedia. When you talk to Jimmy Wales about Wikipedia, there was a decision of whether they would have one quality article and then have iterations of articles as people edited them. And you could see the different edited versions along the way. But the way Wikipedia decided to do it was they really wanted it to be almost a form of democracy, where you had to fight it out and debate within the article about what you believe in and what you think is accurate. There is people think everyone's just changing Wikipedia. There's a huge structural system to how anything gets changed in Wikipedia. Someone owns the page, and whoever owns the page for Wikipedia has their reputation on the line, and you trust the reputation of that area. And that other people can help that person who is the leader, and they're all online and available. There are a few Wikipedians who are very involved, very heavily involved, and monitor the content continually. And if there's a change on a page, boom, the signal goes out to those key people right away, and they can quickly monitor and make any changes if they're inaccurate. So the thing that is interesting about Wikipedia is that also as a learning tool, when you go to it, you see where the areas of dissent are. You can click on that. You can see where there's points of contention. If you go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, you see one true fact. It's based on the presentation that's been provided. But if you go to Wikipedia, you can really see the debate and you can understand, and you have to form your own opinion about what you think is accurate. So as a somewhat of a build on this, we're supporting a project called Wiki Educator, and Wiki Educator is actually growing just grassroots out of the local community. But Hewlett is providing some seed funding for Wikipedians to train teachers in places throughout the world how to use a wiki, so that they can contribute their own content. And the content will be available on the website for people to use and localize and contextualize as they see appropriate. One of the major powers of the internet and the connectivity is this opportunity to have these rapid prototype developments, right? We have fast feedback loops now. So the content can go up, it can go out. I can create it as a middle school algebra teacher. Someone else can pick it up tomorrow, either find an error or localize it, build on it, make it a little bit better. I didn't have enough time to do this other exciting option. And then put it back out into the community. And the next person can pick it up and use it again. And so we have now systems of sharing this information, which are much more efficient and can definitely improve the teaching and learning. Just another example of a project is Teachers Without Borders, which has a website which allows different types of content with different Creative Commons licenses to be merged together to create content for teachers to use in different local areas throughout the world. So as we think about the world and we think about knowledge, if we put this box of Legos out here today, and we all had a chance to create something, we would all create something very different. And that's because we bring different strengths and different perspectives and expertise to whatever we're tackling. And when we do that, we have the chance to really contribute in a way that hasn't been allowed really prior to the web. Some of the areas that we're working on that we find really exciting is actually following the idea of scientists. Why are girls not becoming scientists? Why are the young no longer interested in math and science? Well, the traditional classroom is no longer going to work. We need to be engaged citizens. So here are students in Maine who are out collecting data on their local ecosystem. The data gets shared into a database. The teachers use the database to create real live examples in the classroom. They share the data with students in Northern Ireland to compare the geography with other places in the world, and they become part of this global culture, and they become part of the global learning community. Another area that we're focusing on is game-based environments. Gaming is very much seen outside of the learning space, but we know kids and adults are so engaged in games in many, many ways. So how do we use gaming to teach these complex learning areas? Just kind of this last one, I think it's kind of an interesting example. So on the left, we have the stack of books, which has historically been the way that knowledge is transferred. And if we think about Harry Potter, and some of you may have read about it this weekend, so Harry Potter is obviously huge and big. And they have this terrific website, the Harry Potter Lexicon, 25 million visitors. Every analysis of Harry Potter is there. J. Rollins has said this is the best website to go to. It is the accurate website for Harry Potter fans. So now the Harry Potter lexicon wants to create a reference book. But Rollins is saying you can't create a reference book because this is part of what I own. This is the ownership of what I've created. And the fair use group at Stanford in the law school is joining with the publisher who wants to publish the book, saying historically we have always created reference books. There have always been derivative works that get created out of knowledge. And unless it impacts directly on what you're selling, then it is a fair use way that knowledge is shared and disseminated. And yet, because we have the web, it seems like we've entered this kind of interesting space where there can be some confusion about who really owns the knowledge. And if a community together gathers this knowledge, who then has the right? This community has built on what Rollins has originally contributed, and now they've built on top of it. So there are many, many, I think, interesting issues as we go through this space. I think the important thing as we think about our work and think about funding of our work is about thinking about innovation and thinking about how to push the edge of innovation so that we create new spaces and new opportunities for creativity and the experts to be there. And just kind of on a last note to follow up on the open textbooks, that's actually one piece that we'll be focusing on in our work in what we're calling phase 2 of OER in the next few years. So we're going to be supporting a consortium of community colleges to develop open textbooks for the open textbook space. So who creates textbooks right now for the community college audience? Publishers pay the teachers who are in the community colleges to create the content that the publishers then take and sell. And the publishers have a great distribution network. It's magnificent, and that's how the books get distributed, and actually that's a big part. Marketing costs and sales costs are very high. It's not about the content production. So if we disaggregate the marketing costs and the sales costs from the content production, how do we create new models of publishing and content to be out there? And sometimes when I think about some of the universities, the public institutions, we as taxpayers pay for faculty at Berkeley and other places. They use their time to create textbooks. The textbooks are sold to publishers. Our students go back to those schools and they buy those books again. And then we as learners in the community who have paid for the books, and initially we have to pay again. So isn't there a better system for us to create? And the idea is that everyone believes that many faculty will make a lot of money. That's really the big fear. It was a big fear at MIT. If I give it away, will I still be able to sell my book? There are very few faculty who make money. There are some, and they make big money. But it's not spread across the community. And the savings can be in other ways. And there's other ways for those faculty to create added value. Because what we have to do is think about disaggregating the marketplace as we move ahead. So I know we're short on time. And thank you very much for listening. Here's some more information.
You should leave that up. Questions for Kathy? Comments? Wow, that was so spellbinding. Since I don't see any hands going up for questions, I'm going to throw something to Kathy. Kathy, was there anything that, since I was, I have the lovely and dubious honor of being a time clock, I wondered, is there anything else that you would like to share with us that?
I think for us in education, the big piece is how this medium changes the nature of teaching and learning. And while we've been able to begin to address areas of access about getting content or knowledge or freely sharing it, we now have to change how that content is used to deepen knowledge and to create new ways to learn. And I think we're beginning to see that. We support some studies of for example, Carnegie Mellon has this great content that's based on artificial intelligence. And what they've been able to show to students who pre-selected, volunteered to take the course online instead of taking the traditional class. They randomly selected that group who volunteered into two groups, one who took the traditional class and one took the regular class. One who took the online class. The group that took on the online class didn't just take the online class. They were required to take it in half the time. So they had to accelerate their learning in 8 weeks. And what we found is that when you have content that's available 24/7 and it is of very high quality, the students outperformed their traditional students in half the time. So it very much begs the question about how we think about time and space and content and traditional notions of teaching, and why a semester is 15 weeks, and why we're off in the summers.
Thank you.
Okay.